let's talk about asexual and sexual reproduction. Let's start off with asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is the process by which one single organism produces genetically identical offspring. This type of reproduction is most common in single-celled organisms, things like bacteria, but it can also be found in some complex microorganisms as well. The benefits to asexual reproduction are, first of all, a rapid population growth, and it requires less energy to reproduce. All organisms are capable of reproduction. Whether or not they're male or female, they can all reproduce. One organism can essentially make an entire population. This means that they are less likely to become extinct. Also, each offspring is a genetic copy of the parent. This means there is no variation. Now, the primary disadvantage of asexual reproduction is that there is no variation. There's no genetic diversity. This means that the population of a genetically identical organism is more susceptible to disease, and they can't adapt easily to a changing environment. There are four main types of asexual reproduction we're going to talk about. Let's start off with binary fission. Binary fission occurs when one parent splits into two offspring. This is how all bacteria and some single-celled protists reproduce. Another way asexual reproduction can take place is through the process of budding. Budding occurs when a new organism basically grows off of a parent. Simple organisms like protists and some simple eukaryotes can actually reproduce by budding. Here you can see a picture of what we call a hydra. This is a simple protist, lives underwater, and it reproduces by budding. The third type of asexual reproduction is called regeneration. This is probably something that you think along the lines of is like a starfish. Regeneration occurs when an organism can either regrow a lost limb or can actually grow a whole other organism on a cut-off piece. This is common in simple multicellular creatures like worms, sea stars. There's even geckos that can reproduce through regeneration. Take a look at this diagram here. This is a planarian. A planarian is a marine flatworm. And if I were to slice this planarian into all these different sections, each of those sections could still grow into a brand new flatworm. The fourth type of asexual reproduction is called vegetative propagation or plant propagation. This occurs when a new plant grows off of an existing part of an old plant. Some of you might have at home particular plants, if you've ever heard of a spider plant, for instance. It doesn't have spiders on it, but it kind of grows in the shape of a spider, and it's able to produce new plants off of existing parts of itself. Plants like ivy, different types of grasses, potatoes, strawberries. These are all other examples of plants that can grow through vegetative propagation. Now let's talk about sexual reproduction. This is where each organism has a specialized sex cell called a gamete. Sexual reproduction happens when these two specialized sex cells, or gametes, fuse together in a process called fertilization. And this creates a new and genetically different offspring. Now, the advantages to sexual reproduction is that it allows for more genetic diversity. It gives us more adaptability. We're able to adapt easier. It gives us more variation. There's a greater chance of mutation, and mutations are beneficial most often. And that means there's a greater chance of survivability when we are faced with some type of environmental change. Now, disadvantages of sexual reproduction are that it requires two individuals with opposing gametes. That means that organisms that reproduce this way have to use a lot of energy nourishing and growing new baby organisms. Here's what I'd like you to put in your notebook. I'd like you to copy this chart down that you see here, and I'd like you to fill in the boxes for asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. And make sure you write down how many parents are involved, what did the offspring look like, and is the DNA identical to the parents or different from the parents? Make sure you put that in your notebook, and I'll see you guys in class.